Welcome to the August 22nd meeting of the Rotary Club of Jamestown. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, singing of our national anthem, and repeating the four-way test. Let's repeat the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Our invocation today is given by Sue Jones.
Please join me in prayer. Creator, as we gather together as friends in the spirit of Rotary fellowship and service, we ask your blessings. In the word of the psalmist, how good and how pleasant it is for brothers and sisters to sit down together in unity and in peace. Bless all who are in our prayers and all who should be in our thoughts. To the sick and suffering, send your hope. To the forgotten and the lonely, send your love. To the confused and distressed, send your light. To the weary and the wronged, send renewed strength. To the pursuers of justice, send wisdom and faith. To the seekers of peace, send unwavering resolve. To those assembled in this room and our loved ones, send tranquility and joy. And to the world, send your blessings of peace. May your spirit guide us and our loved ones all of our days. Amen.
Thank you, Sue. Please welcome President-elect Ruth Lundeen to announce our visiting Rotarians and guests.
Thank you, John. So we have for visiting Rotarians today, Sean Jones is a guest of Chris Anderson. Where is he? There he is. There he is. Hadley Weinberg is a stand up and bow, whatever. Yeah. And Alex Sharp is a guest of Dan Heitzenreiter. Welcome to all of you.
And I'd like to bring Sherry Krull up to introduce us to our youth exchange students.
Hi, everybody. It's been a while. I haven't been here in a while, but I have a good reason to be here today because I have exchange students with me. You haven't heard me talk about exchange students in a long time. So first and foremost, I want to introduce our exchange student from Denmark, Joa. How do you say your last name, Joa?
It's like Mulholm.
Mulholm. So Joa is currently staying with the Kama family, and Chris Anderson is his counselor. So he'll be bringing him to the meetings even if I don't make it. And Yoa's been here for 11 days and he's already been to a Bills game, which is great. So if you are interested in doing anything with Yoa while he's here, giving him some kind of an American experience or something, please let me know or Chris know, and we can help make arrangements for that. Committee members, I want you to know that we're going to have a committee meeting very soon via Zoom, and we're looking for new committee members. We need people on our committee now that we have students to support. So if you are interested in being a member of the Youth Exchange Committee, let me or Chris know, and we'll make sure that you're aware of our meeting when we get organized for the year. That being said, I have two very excited students here. Soren Kaiser is from Bemis Point, and we are not sponsoring him, but we're going to support him nonetheless with our thoughts and prayers. And he's on his way to France, leaving on Wednesday. So he's super excited. And we have Josie Mason, who's known us for 3 years now, because Josie was actually selected to be a short-term exchange student 3 years ago, and that was canceled. And then she was supposed to go for long-term exchange last year, and that was canceled. And now Josie is set to leave for Spain on the 29th, 31st, sorry, at the end of the month. She's really excited. She says she's not sure it's going to happen until she actually steps on the plane, but we're excited to be sending her, and she will be keeping in touch with us throughout the year. So we'll let you know how she's doing. So welcome to all of you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sherry. Welcome, everybody, and best of luck on your journeys. Looking forward to hear from you when you get back. Announcements. Our Rotarily Yours recorder today is Rudy Andalora. Many thanks to you and the Communications Committee for all you do to keep our club informed. Monday, August 29th, 1 week, the Rotary Golf Classic. So we are up to 20, probably close to 22 teams, which is good news, but we are still looking for sponsors. So if anybody wants a sponsor, knows anybody that will sponsor, please sign up, get a hold of Mike Bird. But we're up to 20 teams. And also for the dinner, we sent out an email if anybody wants to sign up just for the dinner, or see Lisa today if you'd like to sign up for the dinner. Name badges, Melissa Myers is going to update all the information. So please email Melissa if you need an update to your name badge, or if you're a red one that needs to go blue. Next week, no noon meeting, and the following week, no noon meeting. So we won't be back here until September 12th. Next week, the golf, of course, and then Labor Day observance. So we'll be off for 2 weeks. September 1st is a Vision Committee hybrid meeting, 12 o'clock at CRCF, and September 6th is a hybrid DEI meeting, 12 o'clock at CRCF. Any other announcements from anybody? Okay. 50-50. Please get your tickets ready as we welcome Vince Horrigan. $45 to the winner. $642. John, welcome. Give a hand for our Sergeant at Arms, Doug Conroe. Thank you, Vince.
Yeah, bring that right up here, and for your grace and humility, I'm sure you want to contribute to the pie for being number one there. Okay. So, some people I'm still looking for. However, Kristen, so good to see you again. 2 weeks in a row we get to recognize you. Class of 76 reunion. Do you have any other classmates in the room? Okay.
I'm also going to give a happy book because it was just really well planned. It was so great to get together with 160 people. Our graduating class was near 600 in 1976. So lots of baby boomers.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Oh, And those are the recognitions, although Hadley, I always recognize Hadley because he's Hadley. Yeah. Just because you're you.
Because I am me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, Hadley. Okay. Oh, that's right. Your new grandfather. None of those 14-hour labors, huh? Okay, so
Happy buck for the rain.
our Rotarian magazine feature, I'm trying to get everyone here to read the magazine. I trust that you are, because you're getting the hint. Sally? The August issue. So if you haven't read it, go home and read it. Absolutely. Joey O'Brien was featured in it. If you might remember, from the Rotary Club of Canmore, Canada, up by Calgary. And he's also on the international board of the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group. And it was suggestions on how clubs can be eco-friendly. So there were 7 suggestions. Diana, your table. Of those 7, what can you come up with? Number 2, reuse, return, and reduce. Terrific, yes. Picking up trash. Yeah, that's in the part of take concrete action. Yep. So the others were start at home. Take your home, solar panels, insulation, heating efficiency. Spread the word about hybrid and electric vehicles. Include environmental responsibility in your branding. I thought that was interesting. Their club has a line as part of Rotary's environmental movement that in their publications, they always include a line for proactive environmental sustainability. And the good one that we all love, avoid arguing. People like to argue about, is there climate change? Isn't there? Is there this or isn't there? The idea is their club is using their program speakers to educate. And they think through education, it's a lot better than arguing. So you disagree. Okay, Tim, put a buck in if you're going to disagree. And the last thing that I know we haven't done in a long time, and because we're a little short on people to recognize today, so I'd like to recognize in the pot everyone who's not wearing their Rotary pin today. And Mr. President, happy bucks. Come on up.
Yeah. And happy bucks for anybody that's happy today.
Oh, I do, but now I owe them to all the people.
I'm waiting for the parade.
It is. Should I stand here? So my happy buck is to announce that last Monday, we had a new team member join the Chautauqua Region Community Foundation staff. Julia Niles is joining us as a grants manager. And so any of you who volunteer to write grants for nonprofits, work writing grants for nonprofits, you're going to get to know Julia very well. She moved here in the middle of 2020 from New York City, and she and her husband, David plans events and activities at the Roger Tory Peterson Institute. And they're a great addition to the community, and we're really excited to have Julia on board.
Just a brief update. Many of you may know this. I ran into Spud's daughter last week, and they're in the process of selling his home and the massive project of cleaning it out. And he'll be relocating, with her. So doing well. He still is confident he's going to make it back. And of course, I extended our offer to do whatever we had to do to get him here. So let's hope that'll happen someday.
So I'm not a member yet, but I still wanted to do a Happy Bucks announcement. The MHA will be hosting the second annual Recovery and Art exhibit this Saturday at St. Luke's Episcopal Church in the Undercroft. Starts at 7 o'clock. There's light hors d'oeuvres and refreshments, but all the artwork is from participants of the MHA, both here in Jamestown, New York, and at our Dunkirk location. It's the recovery painting class that they've been working on for the past year, and the exhibit will be there, and they will be there, and you can talk to them, but it's a really great event, so I'd love to see as many people as I could there. Thank you.
Just one happy, sad buck today. Alex, my guest joining today, Alex Sharp, is been interning with us this summer, going back to St. Bonaventure later this week. It's been a pleasure to get to know and work with Alex, a Jamestown native who will be returning when he's done at St. Bonaventure. Thanks, Alex.
Here's money for the table. And let's see, this money is for my 59th high school picnic this past weekend. And this money is for somebody else's 60th reunion, which will be this coming weekend if he remembers to go.
Thank you, everybody. It is my pleasure to welcome Tori Ergang from the program committee to introduce our speaker.
I am happy to introduce a man who requires very little introduction in this room. But when I'm in charge of programs, I go to my immediate circle around me and say, who is doing something interesting that would be easy for me to call? And Greg almost always comes to the top of the list. So I think we're going to be very excited to hear from him today. Greg has served as the CEO of the Gebbie Foundation since 2013. It is hard to believe. I was smiling when I saw that. And he is, of course, the tied for second best county executive, dating back to 2006. He also was the endorsed candidate for lieutenant governor in 2019, for those of you who may not have lived here then. And he is perhaps best known for being an attorney in our community for 18 years. And then the thing that makes him near and dear to us is that he was a founding member of the AM Rotary Club and is a Paul Harris Fellow. He is a graduate of Allegheny College and the University of Toledo for law school. And he is married to Carrie, and they have 3 wonderful children. Perhaps my favorite members of the Edwards family are Greg's children. So.
Excellent. Thank you. I have a short presentation with some slides. I'll try and get this mic right. If you can't hear me, or is it all good? Okay. Excellent.
Only the Sleep Number 360 smart bed keeps you cool, then senses and effortlessly adjusts.
All right, what we're going to talk about, just kind of to warm things up a little bit, is the work that's happening in one of our best undiscovered assets up to about a year ago. And that's really the Chattacoin River and the basin, and the focus that's received. I knew I was going to have one supporter in the room, so I was excited about that as well. But so that's where we're going to start, but don't feel obligated to stay there, because that's really a focal point that's driving and going to help drive a lot of other activity in the river. But just a brief, get that wrong. Oh, thank you. Right and left. Got it. And with just a little bit of history, that originally the urban design plan work in the city started in 2006 with urban design plan #1. That was followed up 12 years later with the beginnings of Urban Design Plan 2.0, we called it. The reason it was updated was because of the success of the first one. It really helped galvanize people's interest in where they wanted to be in the city of Jamestown in 10 years. That was the reason for the plan. And then the second one came about because so much had been accomplished and the city had evolved so much in that period of time. It was right and appropriate to then take a look into the future 10 more years. And that's what really came up or became the Urban Design Plan 2.0. The focus of that was to analyze, update, plan, implement, and then align resources around where the collective community around the city of Jamestown wanted to see the city 10 years in advance. So that's Urban Design Plan 2.0. A major focal point of that was really the focus on the Chattacoin. And what about the Chattacoin? Those of you who've been around for a while, if I'd have told you, hey, let's go down to the Chattacoin in the basin and hang out for the afternoon and just enjoy. If you weren't involved in some sort of criminal activity or you weren't looking for a short-term place to stay, maybe you wouldn't go down there. But that's the evolution that we've seen in that area of the basin. And when I talk about the basin, just to be clear, it's really the larger pool of water between the BPU and the National Comedy Center park there, Comedy Park. And so that's what we have been referring to as the basin. And what was the projection in this document for the basin? It was kayaking, paddle boards, festivals, performance, celebrations. And again, that was really the goal in the design when this urban design plan in 2029 came together. And so before this process really began, this is a nice snapshot of what that area looked like. And you can see that there's virtually nothing happening in that area. And one of the major impediments to moving up and down the river was an old railroad bridge, very low over the water and really not in a condition that could be saved. And so I'll show you what the area looks like now. And this will give you a sense of the evolution of that space. Now we have pedestrian bridges, green space, comedy park, the redevelopment, the beginning of the redevelopment of Panzarella Island. You'll see in the photo the tents and the activity that's happening behind the comedy center right there on their patio. And then the at-grade crossing across the railroad, which really opens up Chattacoin Park, or the Comedy Park and the Chattacoin on the other side of the river. So then what's next? We took a look at that analysis in the Urban Design Plan 2.0, and the credit really goes to this group of partners that came together. The Gebbie Foundation, the City of Jamestown, the Jamestown BPU, RTPI, Chautauqua County, the IDA, CPEG, all public or quasi-public entities. So no surprise that that group would come together. But here's what I think is really outstanding. Blackstone Nay, Lawson Boat and Motor, Harbor Hotel, and Jim Suriano, all of those organizations committed funds, dollars, to the creation of a strategic business plan. Because you can have all of the glorious ideas and opportunities in front of you, but as you can appreciate, this is going to take a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of commitment to get it done. And it was our collective commitment, this large group, to design a business strategy so that the original investments literally laid the foundation for the next step and the next step and the next step. And I'm pleased to report we're already well into the implementation of that business strategy. And I'm happy to share a copy of that with you if you're interested, but it laid out the steps to the full activation of the Chattacoin. So what's really the focus, the vision, what I want to have you gather or capture today? And that's really that this is going to be, and already is becoming, our own Jamestown version of Canal Side up in Buffalo. How many folks have had an opportunity to be at Canal Side for any particular reason? I had the distinct pleasure of meeting with the CEO president of the Canal Side and one of the original board members 3 years ago now. It doesn't seem like that could be that long ago, 3 years ago, to really ask them, how did you guys and gals create this Canal Side? And it was very enlightening. They started with the river. There was an opportunity for a little bit of paddle boards and kayaks and that sort of thing. And this, all as you remember, kind of they had to reboot their efforts when Bass Pro didn't happen. If those who've been around here for a while, that was going to be the savior. Bass Pro was coming to the city, and that was going to create the spark that was really going to remake the city. Looking back, those folks and others would tell you it was probably the best thing that didn't happen. Bass Pro to the downtown, because it forced them to step back. Okay, now what do we do? Reactivate. Implementation of some very simple things, and then encouraging more and more programming from the family groups to the church groups to the scouts, and then it built from there. And those of you who've been there know what they have now, and it continues to grow when they have 10, 15,000 people in the basin to mirror that work. Right now, what's happening in there, and it's designed to go in, and I'll tell you the one hurdle we have to get over, are kayak launches, boat docks, tiered seating for events and activities, a signature garden, visitors kiosks, and all of that is an evolution out of that business strategy and what we learned from Canal Side and others. Here's a look from the work that we've been doing, trying to visualize, and this is in the handout I gave you. No need to look at it because we're going to walk our way through it, but please take that with you so you can share this conversation with others about the future of Jamestown, the basin. How can it work? We're going to talk about north side of the basin and the south side. So North Shore and South Shore. So the North Shore is the National Comedy Center side. And on that one, food trucks, a signature garden, outdoor performance venues, and split between the two, and some tiered seating. You can kind of see how they're laid out there in those visionary bubbles. And then on the south side, which is on the BPU side, is a little different approach. And that's going to be watercraft rentals, a kayak launch, docks, and a welcome center, and then commercial development as the economy around that basin enables that to take place. So to kind of give you an idea of where we're headed with this, I'm just going to go through some very introductory kind of visionary drawings that Labella engineers have been helping us with. And so the first one is an initial look at what that area could become. And if you can picture that, you can see that's right behind the National Comedy Center, just across the tracks, performance venues, tiered seating that allows people to go up and back. If you've been down there, you realize there's about 10 or 12 foot cement retaining wall. The tiered seating is likely going to be designed. All this is projections, likely to be designed so people can move up and back between that. So when there's something going on at Comedy Park, they can get down to the water and vice versa. And then honestly, in some follow-up meetings, this looked a little busy to us. So I don't think you're going to see the development right there in the middle, which looks like a playground. And the area to your right is likely to be scaled back a little bit because we want to leave that as open as we can for that festival feel and that ability for people to feel welcome there and not feel like they have to have some sort of special invitation to come. This is just a kind of a quick look at what a signature garden layout could be. For those of you who've been down there, you'll quickly recognize there's this little triangular piece of property. If you walk out of Comedy Park and you walk down towards the water, and there's stairs to the left and the first pedestrian bridge here, just to your right, there's this kind of rather steep grade. And what's being projected here is an opportunity for signature gardens for the master gardeners to help design and maintain an area where people who are fond of that sort of opportunity to see those sorts of gardens to be also photographs and, a connecting spot for folks as well. So again, these are conceptual drawings, but there's more on the way. Here's something I think is really cool, and I would never have come up with this, but this is a picture of the potential for food trucks, a food truck rodeos area. And the building on your slide on the right is actually the National Comedy Center. So you can see the tracks. So it's going to be between the tracks. And those of you who've been down that way know what we refer to as the blue building. This would be between the blue building and the steps going up to the backside of the Comedy Center. And this would be designed so that the food trucks could get in, and then also areas for people if they want to stay on that side of the tracks, have something to eat. There's some covered dining areas there as well. One of the on the other side of the river, on the south side, this would be looking at the slide on the right, the BPU warehouse. And the BPU has been very good about allowing us to engage with them in some visioning that might have that not always be a warehouse, but be converted into something that might be more higher and better use potentially of that space on the water. And they're not saying no, and they're not saying yes, let's do it today, but they're willing to participate in this conversation. So that would be kind of to give you a sense of where this is. And you can see how they're trying to help people engage the water with some potential bump outs, build outs, and then also a small kiosk welcome center. And in that area, it has access right back up to Steel Street through some property that the city owns right next to Jim Siriano's storage facility there. And speaking of Jim Siriano's storage facility, we all like it. It's beautiful. It's certainly a real high-end storage place, but it's not the highest and best use for that piece of property on our waterfront. So Jim's been willing to have conversations about how that could evolve into something else. And this is just an initial drawing that LaBella did for us to kind of help picture what that might become. A gathering area, maybe a meeting area, but then also a restaurant facility, being able to provide service right out onto the waterfront. I'm excited. I was hoping it was going to be done by today. Unfortunately, it wasn't. We have LaBella doing a flyover starting at around the Harbor Hotel, and then a flyover down the Chattacoin and then down in the basin to kind of give people an opportunity to get a feel for what that trip's like. If you haven't done that yet, I strongly encourage you to do it. Find somebody who's got a small boat, or get in your kayak or paddleboard. If you have any questions about how to do it in an inner tube, get a hold of Christy Kathman. She can talk to you about how to go down the river I love that. If you know Christy, I just smile every time I think of that. But she and a couple others did that and just had a ball. It was a nice, what's the lazy river? Someplace you go with your kids. Anyway, they had a nice time there. But build into all of that the following: watercraft rentals, a water taxi from Celeron down to the basin drop-off point and back up to Celeron, an interactive mobile app so that when you're either at the basin or you're up at the headwaters of the Chattacoin, get your phone out, plug into the app, and the app will give you an interactive, GPS-driven experience coming down the Chattacoin and say, pay attention here. Up on your left, you'll see a spot where you regularly see the spiny-backed turtles. Over there on the right, you'll see some herons. We've got a family of bald eagles in the large, tree to your left, another 100 yards down. And then you get down into the more urban area, down beyond the McRae Point, that I can start talking about some of the opportunities that area presents, including what's the next show at the National Comedy Center and what's the next thing that's happening at Comedy Park. So it's an interactive, it's already been done in a couple locations. It's not that heavy a lift financially. And then the right folks in the region can control its updating and opportunities going forward. So the opportunities are immense. The economic impact is equally immense. Those of you who had the distinct pleasure of visiting San Antonio, they literally diverted some water through a cement trench and created probably the most active entertainment and fun spot to be in their whole city, just by redirecting some water through a cement trench. When we had some folks in to analyze the Jamestown area to really depict what could take place with the National Comedy Center landing, this international firm's first thing they said was open up access to your waterfront. And I will admit, some of us scratched our heads a little bit a few years ago when they first mentioned that waterfront. But most every city would welcome an opportunity to have the waterfront that we have coming through the city here in Jamestown. So it's our goal now to take advantage of that, turn that into activity and fun and economic development that will spread out through the city. So that just gives you a little bit of an overview of one of the areas that a very committed group of partners are working to make a reality. It's truly evidence of why things are happening in Jamestown is that collective group of people that are working on this really big thing, incrementally devoting the resources, time, and vision to get us from where we are now to really where we want to be. And I think we all see it. I think hopefully some of you have had the experience of having family or friends who haven't been here in about 5 years or 10 years show up here this summer, because I can almost be assured that they would say, wow, this area has changed so much. And it's my personal opinion, it's only beginning to go that route. Common theme that we have in the Gebbie Foundation that we share with others. And it's not that we're looking to be singular in focus, but Cooperstown with the Baseball Hall of Fame. I know we've got some baseball aficionados in the room, Randy, but they have about $300 to $400 million a year of revenue that's generated from their conference and meeting business. We candidly have much more to offer than Cooperstown. And that's no offense to the Baseball Hall of Fame, but the market we have for the Comedy Center, our TPI, Robert H. Jackson, and all of our other attractions far exceed that, to the point where now 2 different sets we've hired them to come in to help us understand what we have for meeting planners and what we need. Both those groups have said, we have more to offer other place in all of New York State other than New York City, without the crime, the cost, and the transportation challenge while you're there. So think about that. If your business is trying to put meetings together and find places for your folks that you represent to have these conventions and conferences, and we have the best opportunity, we have to execute on that. And that's really what our focus is, to try and make that a reality. So that gives you a little idea of what we've been doing, and one small area that the Gebbie Foundation is involved in, but it's really important. And I really like the idea that it demonstrates what can happen when you get talented, like-minded, committed people together to try and really realize a vision. So I'm going to ask for questions, because I queued up a few with tough ones. What was unpleasant about it? Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. And a lot of it, no, it's everyone will have their own experience coming down there. One of the things is the reality that while probably 80% of the watercraft that are on the lake today or this past weekend could come down the Chattacoin all the way to the basin safely and turn around and go back up. And one of the other things that's very interesting to me was a year-long study was done of the river. Tuan leaders did a fantastic job. Over 1,000 different soundings to check out the levels and any obstructions and that sort of stuff, because that had to be done first before we took this next step, because there was obstructions and it was going to cost $1 million to remove them. That's kind of where the analysis would start or stop. But it was proven that again, through all these soundings, that it was clear, open, and safe to go up and down the river, but it's a dynamic piece of water. Sometimes the flow rate there is significant to the point where you've got white caps, in some of the fast flow through the narrows by the Sprague Street Bridge in particular. And the height of the river changes quite dramatically too. The other thing was discovered, and really kind of reaches to your point, while 80% of the watercraft on the lake can go up and down it, the narrowness of the channel in some spots will make that very difficult to have a large volume. So the focus from the group that we're working on is on the smaller watercrafts, the smaller boats, outboard motor type boats, kayaks, canoes, paddle boards, paddle bikes, those sorts of things to pick that up. So yeah, that's I'm interesting to learn. Yes. Yes, it's a great, and did I cue that question up with you, or did you come up with that on your own? That was perfect, by the way. That same partnership got together, and we're successful in getting a $1.2335 million LRAP grant, Local Waterfront Redevelopment Program grant, that was awarded. And unfortunately, like many things, it's taken a long time to get out of Albany to get to us. But I want to thank Andy for your support, because I know you were a person that was right in there, a champion for that award. That the additional match is being made by the city. So the things that are queued up, ready to go on that first one are the tiered seating, the kayak dock, the welcome kiosk, navigation aids. I'm going to forget a couple. But all of those are ready to go and would have been in this summer, but for the delay in getting the money out of that. That's what this kind of like literally foundational effort we're trying to make. Get these key things in first and then build these subsequent ones after that. So those are the first ones that were already queued up, ready to go from there. Good question. Andy? I'm sorry.
We can't hear anything.
I'll try and summarize what he's done.
Thank you.
The question was from Andy Goodell, basically complimenting the Dunkirk area for their development of their waterfront and the significant amount of activity that's happening in and around their waterfront, and what, if anything's scheduled to happen here in Jamestown. It's a great question, Andy, and it really fits with the work this group is doing, trying to set up the opportunities for that to take place. First, it has to have the ambiance to allow it to happen. It already has much of that, in that it's a beautiful place to be. It's naturally designed for the types of things you described, which were concerts and events and activities. Last year, I was thrilled to be surprised by a call from Dennis Drew, and he and Steve Gustafson came down and sat with me for the better part of an hour, regaling me with the evidence that area of Comedy Park, and then the Gebbie Foundation owns the property right below that cement wall, then the city owns the part where the Riverwalk is, how that area right there is perfectly naturally designed to be one of the best places that they could imagine, as nice or better than any place that they have been going around the world, literally, but around the nation for festivals, because they were describing how the Comedy Park could be where the entertainment was. The property that Gebbie owns could be the area where the kind of festival activities take place. And then the walk around that area and the pedestrian bridge allows people to move in and out. And that was very exciting, because it kind of showed that we already have one of the most challenging things to develop, and that is the design or the atmosphere. So it's there. One of the challenges we have in that space is, while there's power enough to light the street lights or the lamp lights, there isn't enough power to really do that sort of level. We came together, the Gebbie Foundation, with the National Comedy Center when they built Comedy Park, to power up Comedy Park. And so there's enough there underneath the railroad. So there's power for the park, but there isn't the sufficient utilities, water, restrooms, those sorts of stuff that are really going to allow many of those things you talk about, Andy, to really come. And that's really that second tier of our investment, is how do we do that? Right now, I'm aware of 3 or 4 different events that have taken place in the basin this summer already. And this is people just calling up the city and say, hey, I'd like to have a kids event. And they get vetted and they go through and they have that very successfully, and a variety of other things. But you're right, Andy, Dunkirk's a great model, like other places, having that focus of how do we get people there, because that's really what created Canal Side. they created an area that was attractive enough that people would come there and have something. And then that grew and became from 10 and 20 to 100, 200 to 10,000 on Thursdays. So it's a great question, and that's definitely the direction we're headed. Go ahead. Welcome, by the way. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Yeah. Excellent question, and you'll be encouraged to know that research is already underway. Tuan Leenders is leading the charge on that as well. Significant amount of money was invested, in this case, not by Gebbie, by the city and others, to remove a substantial amount of barriers to travel up and down there. The firm they hired to come in, it was timed perfectly, low water. They got in there. They worked with the BPU to try and help them for a period of time by keeping that stretch of water as low as it could be. And at one point in time, I knew the volume that they had already removed of trees and brush and that sort of stuff that made that trip more difficult. It is a beautiful stretch. Water flow down there tends to be a little bit of a challenge because it does get more shallow on a more regular basis, but it is beautiful. I know that there is a vision of extending the Riverwalk down through that way on both sides. And I know Faulkner's more than excited about finding ways to partner up to kind of connect that activity up and down that stretch of the river. So you're spot on. That's kind of the next phase of river development will happen down that way. I'm not certain of the timing. I think the majority of the dollars are going to be invested on this side to get people aware that that exists, and then kind of keep working down the riverways. Good question. It's been a very well researched opportunity. There are a number of significant challenges to putting that together. I won't get these numbers exactly right, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $3 million just to remove the vegetation that's grown into the track between here and a little bit beyond Randolph. And the train tracks themselves are designed in such a way there's a limitation to what kind of traffic they can have on it. Again, this is roughly speaking about 25 miles an hour is the maximum speed. After you repair much of the infrastructure that needs to be repaired, and the analysis was a little bit challenging because you think about this really great opportunity we have with 7+ million people coming to Niagara Falls every year, and how do we capture more of that opportunity and get it down this way. And the train tracks were very much part of that. The challenge is if you do 25 miles an hour on that track and you're coming from Niagara Falls, you got to really love riding on a train. Who would? I mean, if you're thinking about coming down here to spend a little bit of time, because it's going to be a significant amount of time getting down here and back. And unfortunately, as I do recall, another challenge was passenger train also requires, and Andy could probably quote this, Vince, you could probably quote it. I don't know how many $1 million a year it was going to cost in insurance alone to insure passenger traffic on the existing rails. And I don't think it's an opportunity that can be thrown out. I just think it's going to be one of those things we're going to have to work our way into it, and hopefully, again, as the interest and opportunity presents itself, because it would be great any way we can gather and redirect more of those 7 million people a year who stop on the U.S. side of Niagara Falls and then move quickly on. Anything we can do to capture them and lure them into Western New York is a win for all of us. But it's a very good question. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, ma'am. Interestingly, it didn't come from the Harbor Hotel, although they were a partial funder of this because they recognized the value of the Chattacoin to that 5-star resort. It really came out of us collectively, and I can't think who first came up with it. And it could have been the folks from, I forget which firm we were working with on that piece, but on how to activate the river. And because of the limitations on volume, one of the suggestions was, how about a taxi that got up and down that river, including one that they actually found that was for sale that was solar powered, which I thought was kind of cool. That would be, kind of a bonus on top of a bonus. And the idea was just to move people from the south basin of the lake, generally, into the basin and then back up, because we all recognize the economic value of the lake. And if we have easy access to the south basin, a little more challenging distance-wise to get into the northern basin of the lake and the opportunities there. But that was really what it grew out of, was the collective idea. We need to do something. And I do have to say that someone's already spoke up. Andrea Magnuson wanted it to be a tiki bar boat. She wanted to be the captain of the tiki bar boat going up and down the Chattacoin. Now, my daughter just got done with a bridal party. Well, it was Tim, but she took the bullet for him. But anyway, my daughter was just up in Buffalo with a bunch of bridesmaids for my soon-to-be daughter-in-law, and they were out on the river in the area that I was just describing as the canal side area, in this cool little boat. You could pedal if you wanted to or not, and music playing, all kinds of fun, and they just had a blast. And that opportunity does present itself for us too, with water taxi, other means up and down the river. Excellent. I appreciate all the questions. There are some of the copies of the kind of the executive level vision. Take that with you. I'm going to hang around. I'm happy to answer other questions as well, but it's been great being with you.
Thank you, Greg, for that exciting presentation on the activities of going on down at the Chattacoin. Just one note is the bridge that went over, the old bridge that went over the Chattacoin, where we're using some of those trusses on our front, on our sign that we're working on. So one of Rotary's major international programs is Eradicate Polio in the World. We're down just a few countries in the world where polio exists. Norrin, thanks for your presentation to our Rotary Club today. We'll make a donation in your name. They'll vaccinate 4 children who will never experience polio in your life. So thank you, Greg. And we are adjourned.